Hey everyone, I'm Kristen V. Carter, and this is Trust Your Magic, where I speak to amazing innovators who trust their magic and inspire me to trust mine. I'm here today with a wonderful guest. He is creative entrepreneur, producer, and director Malachi Fuller. What's up, Malachi?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be talking to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like we see each other in passing, but we don't really get a chance to chop it up, so I'm excited.
Exactly. Same. Yeah. I mean, we're always out together in passing, whether it's just out, whether it's work, but I'm glad that we get to sit here and actually really chop it up.
Yeah. So I had to think back. I was like, man, when did I meet Malachi? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I was just thinking about that before we came onto the show. I was like, I met Kristen. I remember through our mutual friend, Brian Henry. And you were directing a interview for him for his program or his nonprofit, Beast to Be Breast Cancer. So that was the first time we met, and I was like, yo, Kristen's doing it. It's dope. I love it. So, and then the outcome was fire too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Was that your first year here?
That was the anniversary of my first year.
Okay.
So I actually moved here the year before that, and I actually met Brian at Beast to Be Breast Cancer. So that was my first one that I was like actively a part of, and so it was cool.
No, well, I respect your hustle and your grind. I feel like you have climbed the ranks so quickly. So I would love to know just a little bit more about your journey, just where you started from. You know, do you remember the first time that you created anything back in the day when you were younger?
Yeah. Man, the first time I created anything, that's a great question. So before Hyyer Creative, which I'm sure we'll get into, it was a clothing line. And so I had a clothing line that I created in college that derived from some sketches that I drew all the way back in high school. And so I still have those sketches to this day. And even in that time frame, I was just drawing. You know, I used to draw a lot. And so that was the first time that I can remember, like, me really getting serious about like wanting to create things.
Okay, so take me all the way back. So when did you start sketching?
All the way back. I started sketching probably in I would say middle school, but I got really into it, like just drawing and doing things like that in high school. And I kind of like fell off of it. It wasn't really like something I was doing. It was just something like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. So I was sketching. I would have a notebook full of ideas. And so one day I was just sitting in college. I was in college in my dorm room, and I had went home for the holidays. I grabbed some of my old stuff, and I caught the glimpse of one of my sketches. And I had written out this word, Hyyer, and I wrote an acronym for it. That day I was like, yo, this is a dope word. I love the way it's spelled. It's spelled Hyyer. And it stands for Have Your Years Earned Revenue.
Wait, say that one more time.
It stands for Have Your Years Earned Revenue.
Have Your Years Earned Revenue. Okay.
And when I sat there and I came up with that acronym for it, I was like, yo, this is a clothing line. Like this is a clothing line. This is what I want to do. And so from there, it was like really like I was developing a clothing line throughout my whole college career. It was pretty successful in college. We had a great fan base, a great like lifestyle base to it. We were selling it in stores on the campus and things like that. And so
wow,
it was good. We were selling it like after school. We had partnerships with the school, and so that in itself kind of led me to my journey to LA. It made me realize like, yo, I want to see what else is out there in the world.
Right.
I'm from Maryland originally, and so the DMV is really known for it. We have a lot of creatives, but it's really known for like its government-centered like focus. And so even in school, like I was a criminal justice major. I was thinking like, I'm going to go the government route, whatever that looks like. And so I knew I had a creative side. I didn't know how to, lean into it.
Yeah.
I just remember taking a trip to LA my senior year of college, and I was like, all right, I came out here and I was like, yo, this is perfect. I was like, I know I'm moving. Like, I don't know what I'm doing next, but I know like I have to move. Like I have to go to LA because everything that I felt like I was disconnected from, I immediately felt like in the creative energy and atmosphere out here.
Yeah.
And so, shortly after that, I graduated. 3 months later, I moved to LA. And so,
there's a lot of things that you mentioned that I want to like deep dive in. So first of all, being young and talking about year-end revenue, anything. How old were you?
Man, I was my sophomore year of college. So I had to be like 19.
So what was it about just finances, creativity? What was sort of piquing your interest at that time? Because I don't know many young people that are talking about revenue, earning, gaining, all of that stuff. What were you into at that time?
Yeah. So it was twofold, right? Like I think I've always had a business centric background. Like my dad, he's a heavy entrepreneur, and he's a large motivation and inspiration for a lot of the things entrepreneurial that I started. And so I'll say, like, even when I was a kid, right, like he put like this vending machine company in our names. And for me and my sister, he was like, yo, like, if y'all want to start your own business, it was called M&M Vending. He was like, yo, like, we can do this. We never really like actually did anything with it, but we always talked about ideas. We actually all had the paperwork. He showed us that at like we were like 8 or 9. And so it was just one of those things. It was like, yo, I always had a business, acumen for that. And then, growing up, I used to have write large signs for like car washes, $10, and just go to the street and hold them up. And cars would just come, and me and my neighbor, we was like 10, 11, like we would just rack up throughout the summer, just try to get like, $50 a day, which to us was a lot of money. We would, shovel snow. So I always had like a hustler's mentality.
Right.
Like, yo, I'm gonna go be the candy seller in school. So that was kind of like always my thing. And so I've always had a business acumen, and so in college, it just kind of, I was always looking for, what my entrepreneurial yearning was going to look like. But then I also had this creative side. And so all I knew was like, okay, I'm going to do criminal justice, but it just wasn't like feeding me the way I wanted it to, or the way I thought it would. And like, kind of like every college kid, you're going through college because your parents want you to. You picked a career that, feels like fitting, but, looking for different things. And so like I was doing that. And so when I kind of like, I knew I was good at business, and then I found like, all right, this is my creative outlet. Those things just kind of tied together. And then even like just posing the question, have your years earned revenue? To me, I look at things symbolically. So when you ask the question, have your years earned revenue? Obviously, revenue in the traditional sense, you think like financially, but when you talk about your life, like what does life look like in a revenue stance? And so the question was really supposed to pose like, have your years earned like value? In a sense of like at the end of the day, whether that's spiritually, whether that's emotionally, whether that's physically, like have you, built on the things and created income within the different aspects of your life.
That's incredible. And the funny thing is that when I asked you when you started becoming creative, you've been creative your whole life. You skipped all the way to college, and it's like, nah, let me dig just a little bit more because, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. And when I see you and I even know a little bit about your story, and we'll get into that, I figured that you had some sort of entrepreneurial background. For me, I started my first business at 14. I took a course through Goldman Sachs and also Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. It was called NIFTY. And I won their national first place prize for most civic minded business. I had like a mentoring program at the time. So because I went to a boarding high school, whenever I would come home for the summer, I would tutor kids on math and science and things like that. And that's how I made money. And then I also was like making keychains, like lanyards. I used to make those and sell those. So when you talk about car washes and whatnot, it always starts somewhere.
Yeah, you're right though. Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. So, you kept bringing us forward, but, so you were, doing the car washes, you were learning from your dad, all those kinds of things. And so Hyyer Creative, you're saying Hyyer Creative started, that sort of question was in college.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So with the college clothing brand, was it just you?
No. So it was me. It started with me and I created it, and then I brought my cousin in.
Okay.
Who was actually from California, and I met him. I didn't meet him until he came to college. He came to college in my state. And so he started living with me.
Okay.
And he was from California. He was like, yo, you should come to LA. I was like, all right, cool. So I came, that's the reason I came out here. So he was one of the original people that helped me start it.
Yeah.
And then my sister was a part of it. I had a lot of friends in college that were like, all people that were like really supportive and pushed the movement, and like, yo, how can I help? How can I be a part of it? How can I help, create things? One of my friends, Najee. So we had a large support system, and I feel like that's what helped it like grow so popular so fast, especially within like our campus. And so that just kind of became that, the clothing line guy,
Okay.
the guy with the clothing line at the school. And so, it just pushed me into like further trust my magic with just that space and knowing that, I can really like put things together that I think of in my head and really create things. So.
Yeah. You had that clothing line all through college. And so at what point did you say, okay, criminal justice, definitely not for me?
So I would say I knew that my sophomore year.
Okay.
I asked my parents to drop out.
Okay.
I said, yo, I don't want to go to school anymore.
Wait, how'd you sit them down?
I told them, like, I said, hey guys, I don't know what we have saved for college, but if you can give me that money and allow me to live off of that so I can study a trade, I would rather do that on my own time. And so like I want to be able to, study like something creative, like whether it's web development or like, fashion or whatever, and I'll just learn it on my own and I'll go from there. You know what I'm saying? But I don't feel like, the criminal justice route or even the school route is for me. Now, honestly, I'm glad I stayed in school because it provided me, so many resources and opportunities and just ways to learn. But yeah, I just didn't. I wanted to, get out of it.
This is so interesting to me because I've always wondered what happens when someone sits their parents down. Because I went straight through school, so I never had that conversation. So when you sat your parents down, what was their response to
Absolutely
that?
not.
Okay,
Absolutely not.
But did you have like some sort of plan mapped out, or was it just a conversation? Like, what was that?
I had like a little 1-pager.
I figured you did.
We never even got there. We never even got to it was just like.
But the fact that you even thought about it, because sometimes, there are some people that do better with trades. It's interesting, that conversation between, am I going to go through 4 years of college or am I going to pick a trade? I applaud you for even attempting to do that, because a lot of people would just say, oh, I don't want to do school, but they don't have a plan. And the fact that you've thought about it, you thought enough to say, okay, criminal justice is not my thing. So they said, absolutely not. You continued. Through school, and then what happened from there?
So I knew for a fact, I was like, hey, there's no way I'm gonna be able to pursue this after college, but I'm gonna continue on with it. I wanted to trade majors. I wanted to go into the business school, but at my school, it was one of those things. The business school was like super hard to go to. I went to the University of Maryland, and so it was a criminal justice program. So it was very limited. So it's like if you leave the criminal justice program for any reason, you're not allowed to go back. But you have to be undeclared to get the business major. So it would have required a leap of faith in a space that I wasn't really willing to take because I wasn't a school guy either. I was taking business classes on the side though too. So like we didn't have a business major or minor at the time, but if we would have, I would have got that. So I was just taking as many business classes as I could for my electives, and that's kind of how I was learning things.
Okay, that's awesome. So you kept the clothing brand while you were in school. You went through the 4 years. So at the end of the 4 years, where were you in terms of creating another business? Were you thinking, okay, now that I'm done with school, I'm going to build out this clothing line even further? What was on your mind at that point?
So when I came to LA, I had a sense of like, I came here for like a week. And when I came here, I just felt like it was the most productive time I ever had in my life. Like I went to the beach, I found like a lot of models. Like I found like a photographer out, and I was like, running things and running gun. I had a whole campaign laid out by the time I left. And so I was like, oh, I could really make things happen in LA. But I feel like that was kind of like my East Coast like grit. And it was like, in the East Coast, we kind of like are a lot more like aggressive in the way we do things,
Absolutely.
I would say. And so like I came out here and I was like, oh, I could run through these streets like pretty fast because I feel like LA has a more laid back demeanor. And so that was kind of my intention with it. It was like, yo, I'm going to go to LA. My first space was I'm going to go out there for a month and see what I can make of the clothing line. And then I came out to LA for a month, and I came back. Sorry, before I even came back, I knew I was moving. This is October of 2015. I came back November 1st. I told my parents, hey guys, I'm moving December 1st. And December 1st, I moved to LA. for good. So.
And so at that point, how old were you at the time?
I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 21.
I didn't realize you were that young when I met you. I knew you were young, but I didn't know you were fresh out of college.
Yep. Very fresh.
Wow. And so what gave you the confidence? It's one thing to have the idea, but it's the other thing to make the leap. What gave you the confidence to move out here?
Man, God, at the end of the day, I feel like, I love the show title because that really is like the space that I lean into, right? Like just trusting myself,
right,
but also trusting, God, and then trusting the intersection, which to me is intuition. You know what I'm saying? That's God given, and trusting the intuition that God gave me. Like, this is the path that's for you, and you don't get that inkling all the time, but when you get it, you're supposed to lean into it. So I really knew, like, okay, I just graduated. I have absolutely nothing going for me yet. I don't have any jobs. It's now or never, So it was time to make that jump.
Okay. So when you moved out here, how much did you move out here with? Did you know anybody? Like, what was your, sort of landing ground, I would say, when you first got here?
For sure. So my landing ground was, it started from the bottom.
Right.
I came with one suitcase, which is all I could really afford to get out here. I really had like $1,000. I was working as a bus boy for like 2 months worth before I moved, just for the summer, just to get some coins saved up. Came out here with the clothing line, a whole bunch of clothes. I shipped a box of clothes out here, and my cousin actually had moved back, and he was staying with his guy brother, who I never met. He told him, hey, he's just going to stay here for, 2 weeks. I ended up staying for a month, and then I ended up staying for 3 years. And I was staying with him in Watts with one suitcase in the hood on an air mattress for 2 years, just figuring it out, thugging it out, and so that was kind of like my origin story to LA. Shout out my boy Sel. Without him just showing love and being genuine, just saying like, yo, figure it out. I wouldn't have been in LA.
Yeah. So what would you say was your first major opportunity after moving here?
My first major opportunity was linking up with Brian Henry. We linked up. He had his event, Beast to Beat Breast Cancer. And this was when I was really on like my grind. I was on Craigslist, and I saw an ad for like, just some interns that could just show up and like help set up, clean up. And I was like, I need to meet some people. So I went. I came with this girl I had just met. She was like, yo, like, let's do this. I was like, all right, cool. I came with a camera. She ended up like leaving. Like, she was like, I'm not doing this. I just kind of stayed, and I was like, yo, I got a camera. Their photographer didn't actually show up. So I had a camera. This is when I didn't really know how to shoot, but I just had a camera. I was figuring out like the creative aspects. I was like, yo, I could shoot for y'all. I'll take the photos. I stayed, helped clean up. And Brian was kind of like, yo, I love your energy. You showed up, like, let's sit down and figure out how to, work together in the future. And so I ended up becoming his intern like very early. And I was like, yo, bro, like, I don't have a ton of experience. I feel like I have a lot to give in this space. And you have a lot of connections and resources and things like that. And so I feel like we can help each other. And he said, yo, like, let's start on an internship. I came home to my parents. I was like, yo, like, I big upped it. I was like, yo, I got this job, with the celebrity DJ. He does this, and this. And, it wasn't paid at first. And so, it was that was my big origin story. And from there, I felt like, all right, cool. This gave me a purpose to continue to stay out in LA.
Yeah.
So.
It's so crazy. I'm smiling because I remember that time. And I didn't know your story. Yeah, I didn't know your story at the time. And I was shooting some content for Beats to Beat Breast Cancer at the time. But I would see you at Brian's house on your computer working on things. And he would always say, Malachi's got it. And just to be able to see your growth. I remember the first time you mentioned Hyyer Creative to me, and it was in passing because, we were like all kind of hanging out at Brian's from time to time. And to just see where you've gone is awesome.
Yeah.
So, you were Brian's intern. How long were you his intern? And then when did that transition into a paid opportunity?
Somewhere mid 2017.
Okay.
He tried to fire me.
Why did he try to fire you?
It was a good firing. He was like, bro, like, why are you still my intern? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was doing like everywhere he would go, I would shoot, I would do graphics, I would do everything.
Yeah.
Not just for him, but I would also like I was utilizing that as like opportunities to find work. Like I would show up, people wouldn't have a photographer. I was taking photos for him. They would be like, yo, how do I get these photos? I'd be like, I'm seeing an invoice, you know what I'm saying? And things like that. And so it got to the point of skill level where he just kind of felt like, yo, like the work I was doing exceeded that of an intern, which was cool. But for me, it was like, yo, like I'm a very loyalty first individual,
right?
And I always put on for the people that put on for me, like, and so that's just kind of the space I'm in. And so with Brian, I was like, yo, like, I'm here to help you and to be of service. And so I want to continue to do that. And then it kind of went into the space where I was telling him like, yo, you still have me in this intern position and I don't need to necessarily be paid, but when we do this transition, there's a lot of things that you haven't allowed me to execute on that I can do to help your brand like get to the next level. And so from there, it transitioned from me being his intern to me being his social media person. And then from there, it went from me being his brand manager. And so now, fast forward to today, we have our agency manages his brand. So
okay,
yeah,
amazing. So tell me about the transition from doing that work into creating Hyyer Creative.
Yes, absolutely. So it actually went from the clothing line, which the clothing line was called the Hyyer Life.
Okay.
And so I came out here. I was like, yo, I got to make this clothing line happen. I learned a crazy valuable lesson in business, which is don't leave your market. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a market out here. My market was booming in the DMV. And so when I left it, I got disconnected from it.
Right.
And so like it kind of like started to fleet, but also my passion for it was still tied to the DMV. And because I was out here trying to create with no like real buzz around it, I kind of lost passion for like the fashion space. And so what I did end up picking up in that season was I needed money.
Yeah.
I was out here like a broke creative trying to figure it out. And, the entrepreneur kicked in. I was like, yo, like, all right, what do I know how to do? I know how to shoot photos because I've been doing that for my campaigns. I know how to create websites because I created my own website for the clothing line. I know how to, create like social media campaigns because I did that for the clothing line. I know how to do graphics because I did all those for the clothing line. So I was like, I'm just going to start selling these services.
Right.
And so like, as I was working with Brian, I would moonlight services to other individuals. And at that time I got a job at Revolt TV and I have like 4 trajectories like in life. It's crazy, but I got a job at Revolt TV. And there I was a production accountant. And so
I was not expecting you to say that.
I'm telling you, I have so many lanes that all tie into the same tree. But yeah, I was a production accountant. There was a lady named Crystal. She gave me, and you know Crystal, I think too. She gave me my first start. She's from Maryland. She went to University of Maryland. She saw me as a young, hungry kid that just wanted to get stuff done, and so. She put me on in the space and was like, yo, I'll teach you everything under this guise, so start as a production accountant, learn the finance side of production because you're business oriented, and then I'll teach you the creative side. And so she was doing that while Brian was simultaneously. So I would work 9 to 5 at Revolt TV
right.
and then 5 to 9 with Brian, like going to all his events, shooting all the stuff. And a lot of the stuff would merge. And so people from Revolt TV would see me shooting at the events and they'll be like, yo, aren't you in finance? I'd be like, sometimes, and so all those things began to merge together in all those like aspects of life. And so I really started diving into the creative outlets like photography, videography, editing, graphic design, web design. And so as I learned those skills, I realized like there's a way to umbrella this somehow, And so In 2018 is when Hyyer Creative was born. Before that, I was still trying to do the Hyyer life for a little while, the clothing line, but eventually I kind of fizzled out of that, and I realized, like, I want to do this full time. I want to create for other people, and then create original stories full time. So
yeah, the thing that I love, a lot of people build businesses, but you have created what I feel is an infrastructure. When I looked on your website and I saw how many people you've been able to employ, how have you been able to do that and be consistent?
So for me, I've learned that it's very important to be. I'm just a team player. I feel like for me, like I care about other people. Other people winning, and my success is their success. I've never been like the person that shows up and says like, yo, like, I did all this myself, because I didn't. And even if I did most of it myself, it's off the backs of somebody that gave me the opportunity. And so I look at all the opportunities I have in that way. Yeah. And so when things come my way, like, I've realized, like, you can go further together than you can just by yourself. And so in that regard, like, I started getting a lot of opportunities, and I realized, I've always been a leader, and it's time for me to step out of some of these opportunities, because I can't do them all myself, and to start leading a team. And so as, opportunities continue to come, I started to just give them to other people. I just started to say, hey, you available to do this? You available to shoot for Brian? You available, and that allowed me to free up so much of my time that I just had, like, it would be like 5 events a day. Like, I became like the nightlife guy. Like, oh, he shoots all the nightlife stuff. So it wasn't just me anymore. It was like, yo, I got this person. And I also understand, branding. And I understand the way, just those things kind of work together. And so for me, it was, this is where the business side comes in, the intersection of business and creative. A lot of times there's a disconnect, right? Like, with creatives, a lot of times we don't know how to talk to the people that we're doing business with. We don't know, like, how to negotiate, or what the budget is, and all those things. Me having a finance background, I know what the budget is. I know probably what the overall line item is. Yeah. I know how to get you more money. I know how to get you what you're worth. But I know how to get the client what they want. They might not know how to explain, yo, I want this to be brighter. They might just say, yo, I want this yellow instead of blue, but not knowing that they don't really want it yellow. They just want the whole aesthetic to feel, lighter and brighter or whatever. So I think understanding the intersection of creativity and business, and kind of playing an unselfish role of, like, yo, like, I want everybody to win. Yeah. And I think that's kind of how we've been able to build and scale our company and do so much amazing work with amazing people, because the people we work with want to consistently work with us. And then the creatives we work with have nothing but good things to say. So
that's awesome. I'm gonna ask you to talk and just name a couple of clients that you've worked with, or just some of your biggest opportunities thus far.
Oh man, whenever somebody asks me this, I always forget.
You gotta always be ready.
It always clicks out my head. I'll be thinking about it before. Let's see, who have we worked with? Companies we've worked with: Live Nation. We worked with Disney. We worked with ESPN. We've worked with Paramount, Spotify, NBA. We worked all over. We've done a lot of stuff. Awesome. Worked with a lot of dope people. Worked with Kevin Hart, thanks to you. That's been. I still love that project. We worked with Cardi B. We worked with Meg Thee Stallion, Lena Waithe a lot. So a lot of fun.
And then shout out to some of your team.
Yeah, shout out to the team. Yep, Neither, my partner. Yep, Gianna, one of our other partners. She amazing photographer.
Yes, Felicia.
Q, Rose, the whole team, man. The whole team. I love everybody on our team. Everybody plays an integral part in the success of what we've had. Lamar, everybody. So
that's amazing. So, I've heard you mention, trusting your gifts and trusting your magic, of course. But tell me a little bit about your spirituality and how that centered you as well.
For sure. Well, it starts with me, but I mean, long before me, my dad is a pastor. I've been in church my whole life, and even before, like, I developed my own spiritual journey. Like, I was in church every week, 3-4 times a week, being a pastor's son. You go home, you go to church for choir rehearsal, you go to church for Wednesday night Bible study, Sundays, every opportunity there is. So I was in church a lot. But outside of like just having that, I developed my own spiritual relationship with God. Being able to have a source of foundation of faith. I feel like that has been really the space of where I landed on a lot of my decisions and how I make a lot of decisions. And I just listen to God and His word and what He has. I know He has a plan for my life, and so that's kind of the way I look at life. Is one, I'm here to serve others because I feel like that's the purpose that God gave to me. So.
Did you ever have a season of rebellion or witness any of your friends have a season of rebellion, and how did you respond to that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've definitely had my own seasons of rebellion. I've had times where God was telling me to do something, and I wasn't willing to do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't let your purpose, get forfeited because your personality is a certain way. And so I talk about that a lot. I feel like as humans, we develop these spaces where we kind of box ourselves in. And God's like, yo, I got something much bigger for you over here outside your comfort zone. And so I've never shied away from stepping outside of my comfort zone because that's where, the magic happens. Yeah. But there are times where I've definitely, rebelled against, what I felt like God was calling me to do, or what I wanted to do, or what He called me to do. So
okay, I was gonna comment on the box, but you got it all the way together. Because I was like, wait, we don't live in boxes. But I appreciate what you said. So just in terms of not only being a preacher's kid, but being a man of God, what do you feel like your ministry is?
Man, well, I'll say this. I feel like my ministry is service. I am in a space of service. I feel like Hyyer Creative is a space of service. And I feel like just me personally and what I do is to service others. And I feel like if we're just talking about purpose, right? Like I kind of have boiled down my purpose or identified it as one, it's to help inspire, define, and show and highlight the purpose in other people, and I do that well through branding and whether that's marketing somebody's business, whether that's highlighting their just what they have going on, whether that's creating a strategy for them to understand how to identify their skills in whether it's creative or business. And so I really enjoy, helping other people find and define their purpose in life. And so,
it's funny. I think about all the ways that you have serviced so many people when I see Brian's brand and what you guys have been able to do with, his block party and so many other things. And then when I think about Hyyer Creative and what we've done together with Gospel Live and Heart of It All.
Yep.
And then also Gianna doing my annual birthday photos and neither coming in on the clutch with my Halloween photos.
Them photos was fire too. Hey, y'all did y'all thing.
Yes, I'm excited about this year, which I already have my idea like months in advance.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about just entrepreneurship. You have a lot of great men and women around you, but what would you say for young entrepreneurs who are looking to start a business? What would be like your words of encouragement to them?
The first thing I would say is trust your magic. But I really mean that genuinely. And just to give it more depth, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Do the work so that you have good intuition, but trust it when it comes. And believe that what's right for you will happen as long as you're taking those strides in the right direction. Know that everything isn't and won't be. You won't always see the full picture. A lot of times you got to move on faith. And I feel like that's kind of been my story in life. And that's why I believe that, you have to move on faith without works is dead. And so without making those moves, a lot of things can't happen. And so, make those moves, but also, do your due diligence, do the work. I'll say that also just be willing to give, give of yourself. I feel like, and I tell people all the time, like when we get into these conversations of working with, younger people, I'm the person that I want you to I want to give a lot to you, but I realized, the people that work the best are the ones that want to learn, and so they also like give a lot to you, and it's a reciprocal value. And so like for younger entrepreneurs, in order to really get the most, you have to be able to give the most. And so
speak on it. There are a couple of things you said that really resonate. Faith without works is dead. That is one of my favorite scriptures, because a lot of people want the glory without the grind. And I always say, giving is your way to break through. So whenever somebody is like, woe is me, I can't find an opportunity, this, that, and the third, I always ask, well, what are you willing to give? Are you willing to donate your time? Are you willing to volunteer? Are you willing to mentor? Because for me, that's always been a breakthrough for me.
Absolutely.
And I think too many people, especially in this generation, are very much like, what can I get instead of what can I give? And I have always gotten so much out of giving. It has shifted relationships. It has shifted hard times. Like I can always count on that. You got to get out of yourself.
Yeah, get out your own way.
Right.
For real, because it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference. And you can tell the people like who understand that. And it's not even a thing of like, yo, like I don't want to not give. I want to give everyone an opportunity, right? But for whatever reason, I want to give the person more of an opportunity that I feel would genuinely cares about service, you know, and helping me. When you help me, I automatically, like I said, I'm a loyalty guy. Like when you show any type of loyalty towards me, it makes me like, all right, cool. Let me flood you with the loyalty and the love and the things that I can do to help you, so.
No, I absolutely love that. And it's just amazing to hear a little bit more about your foundation and your values, because those things make all the difference. Whenever I see anybody that is successful, or what I deem successful, is really who is balanced, who's aligned, who's a good person. It's all those things that make me go, okay, there's something else happening with you. So I'm so glad that we got a chance to chat. One more question before we go. You have been so giving just as an entrepreneur and also as a leader, but now you are a new father. Congratulations, first of all.
We got a second. Let me take a breath.
Yes.
This might be my only good breath today before I go back home. So, but it's beautiful. I am father to a beautiful baby girl. Her name is Malia.
Wonderful.
And it has been my best challenge, my favorite challenge, I'll say. Figuring things out. It's always beautiful when you take on a new role. It's like I got a new job that I'm learning, and so learning how to be a father. Is in the technical sense. I feel like, as a man, it's certain things you got to learn how to do, just to be a father, especially when I found out I was having a girl. Like it was a heart shift, and it kind of pulled on me and made me realize, like, there's certain ways that you have to, she's a baby girl, she's not a boy. You can't just talk to her the same way, and so I've seen a shift in myself. So I'm grateful for that. It's made me more tenderhearted, for sure. In the ways of like how I approach things, I don't even in the way I speak, right? Like I might not second guess, but I'll think twice about the way I say something because I care about the way it's interpreted, And even now, like it's like, I just feel like, she's kind of made me softer in a good way. And so I'm grateful for that.
What kind of life lessons do you want to impart to her?
Man, I want to impart to her to follow your dreams, trust God, know that you're loved by your parents, and that we have your best interest at heart. But also in that space, you are your own person, and I want her to be able to grow up with wisdom and intuition to be able to make the best decisions for her. And so that's kind of my job, is like, I'm just passing the baton to you till you're ready to take it. And so I enjoy the moments that I get to have with her and the moments I get to teach her.
That's awesome. So when she sits you down and says, Daddy, I don't want to go to school, what are you going to tell her?
Let's talk about it. What do you want to do? What's your vision for your life? But also, here's the reasons why you should go to school.
I love it.
And I'll let you make the we'll see if I'm dad enough or not to let her make that decision at that point. You know?
I'm like, what business, is Malia going to create as a little one?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with the people?
I'll say I'm excited for what's happening behind closed doors with Hyyer Creative. I'll say that the things that are brewing right now are very beautiful. I'm not sure like the full direction of what's next outside of what we're planning, but I know that we have some next level things happening behind the door, so I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Well, Malachi, I am so proud of you. When I think about people that trust their magic, obviously you come to mind. And I just applaud you, not only as a fellow creative, but also as a Black man. Like, I'm so excited for what you're doing with your family and with your business. And so I just want to honor you and say congratulations. Keep going, keep soaring. And I'm so excited for what you're up to.
Thank you. And let me stop you and say I am inspired by you. Even from the jump. Like, just remembering the first time I met you and you were directing an interview with Brian, I was like, yo, this is so dope. But even now, just seeing you directing and leading huge projects like, the Gospel Live and like the Kevin Hart project. And it's like, yo, like every time I'm around you, I feel inspired. So I love being around people like that. I'm so glad that we got a chance to sit down and just, talk. And not have to work.
Yeah.
We're not on clock. So thank you.
Absolutely. Because I'm thinking, the last time I think I saw you outside of my birthday, I think I hugged you.
Oh, yeah, we'd be at your birthdays.
Yeah, I think I hugged you like in the hallway for Gospel Live. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then it's funny, when we delivered the show, I'm separating the photos of yours and Gianna's, trying to make sure you guys get the right credit. And so, it's interesting and awesome to be in these spaces now. These are things that I've dreamed about. When you were talking about your daughter, like there was almost a moment, in these spaces, I'm listening to my guests, but then there's a moment just as a person where I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful and blessed to be here. Yeah. And when I think about the dreams that I had when I was a youngster and being able to have this, it's like such a dream come true. And so when I watch what you guys are doing, I know what it's like to be in business, to bring people on and to have to figure out, like, you have to level set and troubleshoot and all those things. And then there's like personality conflicts. Like it's all the stuff people don't think about. It's all the stuff that's not glamorous. But when I see you keep going, I know all the stuff that's behind the scenes. Even when we don't talk, I know what it's like. And so I just am so excited and proud of y'all, and just keep going higher.
And shout out to our team as well. I definitely want to shout them out. Without it, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you or at this level. And so I'm grateful for everybody that plays a role in our team, whether it's day to day, whether it's, just every now and then, like, it's love, man.
Yeah. But tell everybody where they can find you.
For sure. So you can find me at mal.full on Instagram, mal.full. As far as Hyyer Creative, you can find us Hyyer Creative on Instagram or hyercreative.com for our website. We love talking to people. We love when you reach out. So hit us up.
Awesome. Well, everybody, that's another episode of Trust Your Magic. Now, if you liked what you listened to or watched, please tell a friend and subscribe. We will see you next time.